Good afternoon and welcome to the Rec Tech Showdown. My name is Louise Triance from UK Recruiter, and this is a series of shows that we're doing this autumn with lots of different amazing tech providers talking about their offerings and what they're doing in the recruitment space, who they're doing it with, why you should buy their product. And this week I'm joined by something of a legend, who is, Kelly Robinson from Content App.
Good morning, and it is good morning for me actually, because I'm in California. So good afternoon, but it's still dark outside from where I am. So nice to see you, Louise.
It looks like it's good evening for you, but it's just the start of your day.
I promise you, the sun's coming up in 2 hours, and if enough of it comes out in the next 20 minutes, I'll spin the camera around to make everyone jealous.
Oh, please don't. What we're talking about this afternoon in this show is the product that you're involved with called Content App. Now, if we've got live viewers on Crowdcast, then you're welcome to say hello in the sidebar, ask us a question, and I'll pose that to Kelly. If you're watching on Facebook, if you pop over to Crowdcast, you can ask your questions there. If you're watching this after the show, so that's now Wednesday, 3 p.m, if you're watching after that, it's very, very easy to get in touch with both myself or Kelly, and I will put a link to Kelly's LinkedIn profile in the sidebar in a minute, but Content App's website is just at the top of the chat. So let's kick off. Kelly, do you want to give me a quick overview of what this offering is?
Yeah, sure, I'd love to. So for those of you who don't know too much about my background, just briefly, started in the staffing and recruitment industry. Like many people, had a passion for technology, and back in 2001 built and launched a company called Broadbeam, which we grew to be the largest job distribution company in the world. That journey took me on 2 exits via the Daily Mail and eventually Career Builder, and ended up with me being here in Southern California. So it wasn't a terrible journey from my perspective. I finished up with them September last year, and was kind of kicking my heels. I was going to take 6 months off, and very quickly my wife said to me, you know what, you're starting to get frustrated being around the house now, find something new to do. And I'd been talking to Darren, who'd built a system, who's the co-founder of this product, who'd built a system just for a couple of people that was helping them promote their brand or promote their, I think it was an estate agency, promote their estate agency. And we got talking, and we've seen this trend for a while. There's a trend where in the recruitment industry, people know they need to be doing more from a social selling perspective. People know that they want to promote their brand. Consultants know that they need to be doing a little bit more social media, but they either don't know how to start, or they haven't got a process by which to follow. So we set out to build a system that helps consultants become successful in social selling. It creates a regular cadence, it develops good habits, and it really takes care of the repetitive work, so they can focus on the fun bit, which in most cases is having warmer conversations. So I think the thing about technology is, what I've seen, if you can solve a problem that it's repetitive work, that takes away some heavy lifting for people, then they get value from the product and they'll use it more often. And that's what we tried to do, or that's what we're doing with Content App. And that was the start for us.
All right, cool. So you've used the word sales. Is it a sales tool or is it a marketing tool?
I think they're one and the same nowadays. I really do. I mean, I think when I first started in this industry, and I'm probably surely for the same, Louise, it was go out, make 100 cold calls every day, whoop, high five, and I've hit my numbers, great. But we all know that doesn't work right now. So your professional brand and your personal brand, I think, are one and the same. People will engage with you if you're authentic online. People will have more of an interest in talking to you, and those warm conversations are really what our business is about nowadays. So I think you are a marketer, and I think you're also in sales at the same time.
Okay, but the people who you're targeting with this within the recruitment space are the consultants, not necessarily the marketers, or could anyone in the recruitment business utilise it? Our start point was the consultants and the recruitment businesses, but equally it can be used by marketeers. And I think, if we get an opportunity to talk a little bit more about the specifics of the products, I'll show you how we benefit both sides of that. Okay. I was actually going to be my next question is, we don't spend like 20 minutes doing a full demo of the products. I've got a ton of questions for you.
Okay.
But do you want to just walk me through how it would work? If I was a consultant using it, how would it work?
Yeah, sure. So let me give you probably a kind of a good example. Let's say your professional brand is a technical recruiter. You recruit, I don't know, Perl software developers or Java software developers, but you've got a personal interest in, I don't know, clean energy and snowboarding. So what we do in our system is we want both your professional voice and your personal voice. And our system will daily go out and it will find you an article related to both your professional and or your personal voice. So it might say, for example, Louise, you're into clean energy and snowboarding. So we'll send an article today that there's a certain mountain in, I don't know, in France that's turned all of its chairlifts to wind power. Now, that's relevant, that's interesting to you. The system will present that to you. We then want you to share that, preferably write a little commentary on it, because people are interested in your opinion or your insight on that share. And then our system will share that article across your chosen channels. For most of the people we work with, LinkedIn seems to be number one, but obviously we've got the full plethora of channels in terms of LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, etc.
Okay, so what we're looking at here is I say what things I like talking about or I'm interested in, and then they're brought to me, so I don't have to go looking for them. And then I've already set up my channels. I put in a bit of narrative around it, and then it's distributed across those channels.
Absolutely.
In my username. So as my name on LinkedIn, as my handle on Twitter.
Yes, absolutely. Okay. So our system provides two aspects to it. One, it's going to create or curate some content for you based on your schedule. That could be once a day, it could be 3 times a week, it could be once a week. It's whatever your choice is. We will go out and we'll find an article that's relevant to, or we'll find some information that's relevant to one of the voices you've given us, to use the snowboarding and clean energy example. And then you can choose to put some narrative around that and share that. And then from the point, or going back to our earlier question of, am I a salesperson, am I a marketeer? That information is going to resonate with a certain segment of your audience, or it's going to help grow your audience for people sharing it. And that content is going to lead to warmer conversations. And so our argument is social selling is much more powerful than, making the traditional 100 cold calls.
Okay. So it's about positioning yourself, isn't it? This is about being visible and positioning yourself. So if you are a pharmaceutical recruiter and you're sharing content about the pharmaceutical space, which is relevant to your clients, your candidates, you're positioning yourself as an industry commentator, expert. And what it's doing is it's taking the legwork out of finding the relevant content. Is that right?
Absolutely, yeah. We're not just taking the legwork out of the content. It's actually something really interesting happens here. If you're going to be successful in social selling, the key thing is consistency. Right? You've got to be consistent. You cannot. And I typically see 2 types of consultant. They are those people that do. Tell me if this resonates with you. Those people that do social media super enthusiastically for 2 weeks. They're everywhere, and then they vanish because they got no instant gratification. Or the other person that we see is sales message, is just sending a job or a person or a buy from us type message every day, a product message as we call it. And neither of those two are going to work, because the person that does it for a fortnight enthusiastically, buries our feeds and then vanishes, there's no consistency there. And the person that just gives the sales messages is noise. So what we do is we help people develop good habits. We help people develop the consistency, which leads to warm conversations and transitions them from the traditional way of selling, which is typically phone-based, which is, as we all know, is not going to work, and more into the total selling world. And this works the same for recruiting candidates as well as, and we're talking a lot about social selling and promoting your services, but again, it works equally as well for attracting candidates to talk to you about positions. Okay.
So what happens if I'm already using Hootsuite or Buffer and I've got a shed load of content in there and I'm putting out stuff like because every day I think I'll post my job of the day, or I'll post a photo of something in the office. Does that not mess around with what I'm already doing?
Well, our system actually complements those, because it integrates. It sits on top of those platforms, because the bit that we do, which is finding the content suggested to you and driving that through text message, they don't do. So we're going to go out and we're going to find the article. And again, it's about developing this good habit. The process of sending you a text message, or the process of sending you an email to say, hey, we found this interesting article, we think you should share it, we think you should write some narrative, That's what our system helps you to develop those good habits. So we're going to do that anyway. Now, if you choose to connect your Buffer or your Hootsuite or one of those other accounts, then we'll just use that as the distribution platform. Once you've approved it, which we do via text message, once you've approved it with your text message, we drop it into that system and it moves on.
My phone's ringing. That's very unprofessional of me.
Is that a question on the hotline for me?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I do have a question for you in a minute, actually. Well, I did get a question beforehand, which fits in perfectly at this point, which is, which channels can you distribute across? Is it LinkedIn, Twitter? Is it Instagram as well?
LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, the ones you expect. Also, we want to help people publish their information to the website. So one of the things we've got from a marketeer's perspective is the capability to take that piece of message to share it to your other team members or your other employees, and at the same time simultaneously put it on your company network and put it on your website.
Okay, which was going to be my next question about collaboration. So what we're talking about, oh hi Chad, what we're talking about is creating a personal brand as an individual. But what about if you've got like a strong company brand? How does it work with that collaboration? Or you could be part of a really big organization.
Absolutely. When we first built this, our original conversations started off with people that were in marketing or in employer branding, and they were saying to us, hey, you know what, we create this amazing content, can't get anybody to share it. So the first problem we solve is why isn't it people can't share it? And I mean, my history, I built a job distribution company. I was talking to people about sharing jobs every single day, and they come to us and say, we've got all this amazing content, we can't share it. So one of the things we looked at is why, and if you look at every other system, they're typically driven by, here is an email from your marketing department, would you mind sharing this for the company? Now that means go in, create an account, find something, check your email, send it. I mean, how many unread emails have you got? How many unread emails have you got in your account at the moment? Do you have a lot? Or are you one of the outliers that cleared everything?
I am very, very sad, but I am almost unique in that regard. But yeah, I guess the majority of recruiters will do, and those softer ones, those ones which aren't an immediate here's a vacancy or here's my amazing CV, are the ones which will sit in there and sit in there and sit in there, especially those which are like subscription based where you get them all the time. So you see another alert and you're like, oh, she didn't action the 4 alerts back. So how do you overcome that?
So that was the point of the system originally, was that when we talk to these people, they are creating this amazing content, no one would share it. And it's because it was being driven partially by email. It also required people to set up their accounts, give permission to people to send information over their accounts. Yeah. So we set out to do a couple of things, make it really simple and easy for people to share information, which we do via text message. So once you've connected your account, you control it via text message. One of the beauties of that is that there's no training involved. Everybody needs to know, everybody knows how to use text. Yeah. And whether that eventually moves on to WhatsApp or Facebook Messenger, we'll see how the market develops and what opportunities open up. So everybody knows how to use text. It's really simple, it's really straightforward. There's zero training. Now, what happens in our system is company creates some content. They want to share it with their employees. They want their employees to organically amplify that. And there's some really interesting stats on LinkedIn and other platforms that say people trust organically shared content more than paid for content. And I'm a big fan of paid for content because I think it's cheap attention, but the trust factor's there with organic content. And so what our system does is once you drop that content into the network, we'll start to text the employees that are part of it and saying, hey, Louise has created this amazing piece of content. Would you mind sharing it? Now, you are in total control of how it gets shared, when it gets shared, you control that. But all you need to do once you've set the system up is literally open your text and say, yeah, sure. And then we take care of the rest of it from there. So our engagement on that front is so much higher. We have an open text rate of 97% within 3 minutes. Somebody's taken an action and either shared or chosen not to if that's not their voice.
No. And that's what I like about it is I have trialed it. And I like the fact it comes through as a text because we are all literally attached to our phones, aren't we? So that immediacy, I think, is one of the things which makes it so successful. So we talk about authenticity. So I guess that is in terms of choosing the right content. As a recruiter, we have a responsibility to choose, when we use the app, to choose the right content. So I guess that if there's lots of stuff that we're getting and we're not sharing it, it's because we don't feel it's right. But how do we make that? Do you help recruiters to work out how to make that feel authentic, not to feel awkward? a fascinating article about electric lifts, non-electric lifts. How do you help them with that? How do you make that work?
Yeah, I mean, that's part of the process. So if somebody's fully using our system, and there's two types of users. There's those people that are using the system to develop their brand, and there's those people that are just willing to reshare or amplify organic company content. So if you're using our system to develop your brand or develop your company brand, then you're going to gradually tweak the type of messaging you want based on the authors that you follow, based on the industries or the interests that you have. I'm a big fan on showing your audience both your professional interests, your personal interests, a little bit of vulnerability, because I think an authentic brand leads to warmer conversations. And I, what we don't allow people to do is just fill their brand or just fill their feed with sales messages. So, the classic example I used earlier on is, here is a job, here is a job, here is a job. If you choose to send a job in our system, which we call a product, if you choose to send a job in our system, you've got to mix that with 3 or 4 pieces of content. You just can't bombard your feed with jobs. Otherwise, you're going to get no value, no warm conversations at all from that.
Okay, so that's great. So you are being encouraged, forced to share a broader range of content than just a sales message. I think that so many people say be authentic as a tip, but I do actually think that's quite difficult. I don't struggle to be authentic anymore because I run my own business. I've got no boss, no one can sack me. I think that if you are young or new to recruitment, it is actually a little bit scary to say, well, I'm actually going to start talking about stuff I do outside of work, because there is still a KPI culture of we should always be banging on about our jobs and how amazing we are at recruiting. Do you not think that's still true?
I mean, I think we run into it and we see it all the time. I don't think it's true. I think that once you've found, everybody's got an interest, and once you put those interests into our system's going to find an article which hopefully is relevant. If not, you can look for the next one. And once you've found an article that's relevant to one of your interests, whether it's snowboarding, clean energy, mountain bike racing, whatever it happens to be, you've read that article. I think one of the ways that you learn and develop as a person is to read the article and then share that with people. Mm-hmm. And your insight on that article could be, this is an amazing article, to a 500-word analysis of it. The point is that you're taking what we call OPC, other people's content, you're sharing it, you're putting your insight into it. I don't think there's anybody that's going to get in trouble from their boss for talking about something like that. And the market's changing. There is a lot of content out there. Not everybody wants to read about the latest Java stacks. You've got to find a segment of audience that have got the same interests as you, and whatever interests that are. If it is mountain biking, there are a whole bunch of people out there also interested in mountain biking. You're going to gravitate to these communities. And what's the first rule of sales I was taught? People buy from people they like. So it's really coming down to that basic fundamental.
Yeah, but you've got to work out what people would like in you, because being authentic, I guess it's about, I'm totally in agreement with you, but if I was obsessed by something like mountain biking, and I'm running UK Recruiter, and all I'm doing is sharing my mountain biking content, I'm going to turn people off. So I guess that is there some sort of mechanism within the product which says people are loving this more than they're loving that?
So that's on the roadmap actually for the future, because we want to start tweaking the algorithm based on the interactions you get. So we're absolutely doing that. But we're a new startup. We launched in the UK in March. There's a certain amount you can do within a short space of time. But absolutely, we want to start to tweak our algorithms so that the articles and the voice that we're generating is a little more refined.
Yeah, because I think that's an important part, is that I obsessively post content about lunches and snacks at every single event I go to. And people love it. I mean, I could tell you about the speakers on stage, but actually you want to know what the snacks were. And that's from feedback that I know that. But if I'm sharing information about people's socks, perhaps that's less exciting. So I think that feedback is an important part of it. And not everyone's intuitive about knowing what turns on their audience. So I love that idea of that feature being added. Roy Ripper's in the sidebar, by the way, saying he loves the product. I don't know whether he's one of your users. But
I do. I know Roy very well. I was watching the feed, but I was trying to concentrate on you and not start answering questions on the right hand side. Cheers, Roy. Um, I, I think there's there's a couple of aspects there that are particularly interesting. One for me is what we've found recently is that. So I write a couple of things. I obviously there's the information I push out professionally for Content App and for the other businesses that I'm involved in. But then I also write something daily, which is Kel's Corner. And what's interesting is that's just my insight. And for me, it's normally about how can we be better at sales? How can we be a better person? How can we be a business leader, father, husband, etc. So I like to write about that in my personal voice, and that goes outside of the business. I spent probably, and I'm not a natural gifted writer, which is why I do this, because it forces me out of my comfort zone. It forces me to do something I'm not naturally good at. I get really jealous at certain people, and I'm sure Roy's one of them, where they pick up their laptop, they hit a few keys, and this masterpiece of content comes out. I sit there for 2 hours pre-reading it and rereading it again. But what I found really interesting is I did this really, what I thought was a quite informative article, posted it to LinkedIn on their publishing platform, and it got 6 likes and about 400 views. And then I took another article which was written by an author, and I just wrote my insight into it, and it was probably less than 300 words. It took me like 15 minutes, and it got 1,200 views and 16 likes. So to your point about how much effort they work, you're a young person in this industry, you don't have to do long form, fully researched articles. You can find something that's interesting. Share your insight. Sharing your insight, sharing what you've learned is going to help you embed that knowledge. And I think that's really important.
Yeah, well, that is a really fabulous point that I guess I'm really glad you brought out, which is that recruiters as creators of their own personal brand, time is an issue. Now, what you're talking about is a tool which saves time, but the point you're making is that you don't, alongside that, you don't even necessarily need to write a ton of your own content. So to your point about writing an article, I wrote an article which I thought was absolutely amazing on LinkedIn. Only had 104 views, maybe 2 likes, but then I put a photo up of some food at a conference, and more people get in touch with me about speaking at events, about being involved in my blog and stuff like that. So I think that trying lots of different content is a great way of doing it, and using a tool like Content App allows you to try lots of different content across different platforms without the time investment of writing a 2-hour blog. So I think that for a recruiter trying to fit this into their busy day, it sounds like it's a really easy thing they could just, I guess, how long does it take to set up?
So setting up the account is like 10 minutes, and we take care of that for you. But then we come to that point that you just said that it's such an interesting point that you've made, is use the words fitting it into their already busy day, or are they going to be able to put this time in? And what I always say to people when you're starting to do your let me tell you what we hear, actually, and we hear it all the time at Content App, right? We hear next week I'm going to start blogging. Next week, I'm going to do more on social media. Next week, I'm going to start a podcast. And do you know what? Next week never comes. Next week never comes. They never start. More people talk about it and think about it than actually get started. And it's because there's this element, or I think there's this element of guilt. And I used 100 cold calls because that was just the yardstick that was always measured by when I first started in this industry. You go into an office, you pick up and you make 50 calls or 100 calls. People are high-fiving, you hit your numbers, great day. But you sit there and you spend an hour doing social sharing that can develop warm conversations, and it doesn't feel like work. It's almost like they feel guilty. It's like, okay, this doesn't feel like work. So what I say to people is, you know what? Screw that. Find an hour. Get in early. Work through your late. Work through your lunch. Stay late, or just say to your boss, I'm going to spend an hour a day developing my social brand, the company's social brand, to see if that generates some warm conversations, and just do that for 90 days. Don't do it for like 2 weeks and go, well, it's bored, it failed, it doesn't work, this internet fad's no good, social selling rubbish. Literally spend some time on it. Stick to it for 90 days. Give it an hour. That's 90 hours over the course of that period of time, and then judge it and then make an informed opinion. And if you just do some basic stuff, start small, find an interesting article, write your insights, share it. I guarantee you it's going to develop warm conversations. And, I go to any company and I say, look, would you rather have 100 outbound calls made for you or 5 warm calls? And we all know the ones to say, give me the 5 warm calls, but they do nothing about it because they almost feel guilty that this is not really my job. I've even found myself doing it. I'm sitting there writing a blog post and I'm like, I really should be talking to somebody. I'm like, why am I thinking that? Because it's been ingrained in my DNA that if I didn't make 100 outbound calls every day, I was failing. So, hey, I'm on my soapbox. Sorry, I'll shut up for a minute.
No, Because you're right, because that is the holy grail of recruitment, is inbound leads. That is what we're looking for. We are looking for clients to come to us, and we are looking for candidates to fall into our lap. And you are absolutely right that the answer to that is not making 100 cold calls a day. I don't think it's even an hour a day for 90 days. I bet if a recruiter spent half an hour a day for 90 days using something like your tool, they would see a result, and they would see it way before 90 days were up. And because we are always attached to our phones, it's not even a real pain. You don't even have to stay late. You do it on your commute home. You're scheduling in the app for stuff the next day. So, which is what Roy's just said, is you can schedule. So it's not even that you've got like a burst of activity online, which everyone hates. It's all still spread out.
Absolutely.
I love it. Right, Kelly, tell me how much it costs.
So it's, I mean, all the prices are on the website. So unlike lots of our software companies, if you go to contentapp.ai, you can see all the prices there. Depends on the size of the company. So it's typically t-shirt pricing, as I refer to it: small, medium, large, extra large. So if you go to www.contentapp.ai and hit the pricing page, you'll get the pricing there.
Okay, cool. When you said it was t-shirt pricing, I was thinking, what, it was like $12.99, like you might buy in.
It feels like it. No, small, medium, large, and extra large, obviously.
Okay, fab.
I'd like to say I'm a medium, but I tend to buy large.
Yeah, so very straightforward, very easy to look at. I did look beforehand, and it is incredibly clear. Roy's asked me what I'm drinking, by the way. It is not wine.
We had this conversation the other day.
Yeah, I know. Have you got coffee, Kelly?
I have, yeah, coffee.
Yeah, cool. So the next question I've got for you is a little bit, I mean, we have touched on this, but in terms of measuring return on, are you there?
Oh, yeah.
In terms of measuring return on investment, so say you did do those 90 days of an hour, what do we're not measuring the number of calls you're making, but what are we measuring?
So we use, there's several metrics that we're building, but the main one we use is earned media value. So let's say that, so we take the average CPM, cost per impression or cost per click on a social platform, and we take their average costing, and then we multiply that by the organic traffic that we're getting. So let's say you get an average cost per click on LinkedIn. Let's say it's 25p, 50p. I don't know what the numbers are off the top of the head in the UK. I know it's $1, $6 in the US. So let's just say around that number, you get 100 clicks. It's worth $600. And so we use the earned media value as a start point for the value of we're driving through organic traffic. We also track, so we can put an interstitial page so that if you share an article and somebody clicks on that article, on the way to seeing what the author's written, we can inject a page. And that page could be I'm available as a speaker for a conference. We've got a whole bunch of candidates that we're selling for a lower rate now, whatever that message happens to be. And then we track all the activity against that message. And then we track the activity back to the website as well. So there's some different layers. Value.
Okay. Cool. So I slightly lost you then.
I've lost your video, by the way, but I can hear you.
Do you know, if I can see myself, then on the recording I still exist. So okay. I can see myself. We will not worry about the technology. Okay, cool. So two quick. Oh, Roy can see us both. That's fine. So I got two quick questions for you.
Yep.
In a nutshell, why would you? How would you persuade a recruitment business, so not an individual consultant, but how would you persuade a recruitment business to invest in this?
So, three things. The first thing is most recruitment companies have a LinkedIn page, a Facebook page, and some form of content or employment brand. Typically, their company pages consist of, here's our logo, we're brilliant at XYZ, very American, XYZ, and sorry, and then no content ever gets added. So, when a client or a candidate or somebody comes to look at you, they're thinking of doing business with you, they do the reviews, they look at your page, they look at, Glassdoor, they do all those types of reviews. Most of our clients have no content. It's the same page they set up when they originally set it up. They put a logo, they put a little blurb on there, they don't update it. So by plugging into our system, every time we share content, we push that through to your company pages. So at least your feed's active. It looks like your business is opened. Otherwise, people go there and it's like the doors are shut and the window blinds are down and you're not open for business. So first and foremost, for a really small price, we can bring that brand to life across the social platforms where people are looking at you. The second thing we do is any content you create as a business, we can make it almost seamlessly organically amplified by the people that already work for you. And quite often you're creating this content and no one's sharing it. So we've solved that problem. And then by building your consultant's brand, you're going to develop warmer conversations and that's going to lead to growing your company.
Okay, cool. Well, I think it's a no-brainer, but I'm pretty sure I'm not going to say
absolutely.
That.
That's why I'm
impartial.
I mean, you want the team behind it. I mean, it's fantastic. You know, I believe if you're going to build a successful business, there's a couple of things that are key. And for me, there's the team and the energy, focus, or mixed with a little time. All right, and this is an amazing team. These guys are so passionate about what we're doing, and I didn't go out and recruit this team. We've sort of come together over a period of the last 7 or 8 months. Yeah. One of the guys that runs sales in the UK is a guy called Rohit, and some of you may know him. And if not, I'm going to drop his LinkedIn profile into the chat in a second. But when Rohit joined, he was literally, I'm all about phone sales. I'm about phone sales. I just call people, not interested. I'm like, well, you know, we're in a social selling world. Our product's about socially selling. You need to be doing more in this space. And he literally cracks me up now because I got up the other Saturday morning and he's posting a video of himself cooking breakfast. So if this guy can be converted by what we do, then anybody can.
Yeah, no, totally. And that is exactly a conversation he and I have had. It was him who I first spoke to. And he is absolutely brilliant. And he is, like you say, he is walking the walk of what this product is and truly believes in it. So I have, and Roy likes him too. I have one final question.
I'm sure he wants to work on the BBC as a reporter because I can't get him off the video now.
I think we all do now. I have one final question for you, but is there anything I haven't asked you that you wanted to talk about?
No, I've enjoyed the conversation. Thank you.
Okay, cool. So my very final question is, and this is a question I'm asking everybody on these shows, and this is thing I know you know about with your background, and with so much technology available, how can recruitment leaders and actual individual recruiters prevent themselves getting bogged down in technology overload rather? Because I'm talking to a lot of providers with really great offerings, but how on a day-to-day basis can they make sure they're not overloaded?
I mean, it's a really good point. So we was at HR Tech last week, which is I mean, they've got it in the UK, but in the US, it's certainly the largest HR technology conference. And I was talking to somebody as a client, got to know them over the last, couple of months. And that person was telling me they go into their Okta, which is like their centralized login to all of their different kind of tools that they use. He's got 27 applications that he's supposed to use. And quite frankly, how can you give 27 systems any attention, certainly the right amount of attention? You just can't do it. And so therefore it becomes a bit of an admin chore. Now, I look at what I do with Content App. I get a text message a day. I look at the content. If I'm interested, I can share it and I can add some narrative to it. And that takes me, 5 to 20 minutes, depending on what I want to say. But it brings value. So for me, technology needs to enhance what you do. It needs to take away some of the repetitive work. It shouldn't be a chore. And it certainly shouldn't be 27 different logins because that's just never going to work.
No, that is crazy. And I think that is going to be what, as Roy says, so many shiny objects. So, for these shows, mostly I'm speaking to new businesses who have new tech, which is why I'm asking you specifically, all of it, where the real value is. And I think that for something like your offering, you can really see it. I don't think anyone needs 90 days of using your tool to get a feel for how it's going to benefit their business. I think that would be very swift turnaround. Exactly,
but 90 days to see the true value of changing from a traditional sales model to a social selling model. And there's people out there like Roy and Daniel Disney and all these people that are doing these amazing courses. So once you've got the tech in place, once you've got and we're here to develop the right pattern, the good habits, the regular cadence. Our technology supports that. But I do think once you've seen that start to work, then invest in yourself, get better at it. And there's some really good people that will train you.
Yeah, no, I think absolutely right. So as a follow-up to this, I'm going to be putting together a blog post where we embed this actual video and with links to the site. And I know on your site you've got like a good testimonial from a really well-respected recruitment business about how they're using it. So we'll link to some content like that so people can see the broader picture. If they want to find out more, who's the best person to get in touch with? Is it you? Is it Rohit?
Well, they can reach out to any one of us. So you've got our contact details. Obviously, I'm in California, so I'm 8 hours behind, so I might be a little delayed. If you reach out to Rohit, I think his link's in there now. He's a great guy. Or if you just go onto LinkedIn, he's bound to be there on some video form making breakfast or doing something. But you'll find him fairly easily. So reach out and connect with him and Darren in the UK, and any one of us, really.
Yeah, okay, great. All right, well, I will put all those links into the blog post, and hopefully we will see you over in the UK at some point. I guess you're not over an awful lot.
I used to be, not so much recently because obviously we've been building the market out here in the US, but I do need to get back. And for being authentic, I was just waiting for the Tottenham Stadium to open, but we're not going to talk about soccer. I just said soccer. Sorry guys, I didn't mean soccer. We're not going to talk about the football, but I was waiting, and the guys know, Rohit and co have been waiting for me to for the new stadium to open to book tickets, but they keep delaying me. So I'll be over soon. So I'm looking forward to catching up.
Well, I might not actually see you at the football, but when you're in the UK,
but that's my excuse to buy a ticket. I'll build all my trips around the Tottenham fixture list.
Yeah, I like that. I like the authenticity of that. Well, thank you so much for agreeing to be on the show with me, and I will hopefully see you soon.
Indeed. Thanks very much.
Thanks very much. Bye.
Bye.